Hey, Evangeline. Got another book for you today. When God Made the World. This is a big book. It's going to be fun. In the beginning, before anything was, before God started doing what it is God does, when all that existed was wide open space, God imagined the universe and he began to create. God hung trillions of lights, stars big and stars bright. God turned the dark sky into a glorious sight. God put planets in place with moons in some cases and galaxies that could reach outermost spaces. God made comets that fly with tails through the sky and asteroids and meteors that sometimes zoom by. And with cosmic explosions, God set space in motion, causing planets to orbit their suns with devotion. And somewhere amid all the swirling light, inside the cluster of milky white, among stars and planets and cosmic dust, God made a place for the story of us. Because when God made the world, God displayed heaven's glory for you and for me and for all of the world's stories. Our planet God made a blue and green sphere and designed it to orbit the sun once a year. God made daytime and nighttime, climates and seasons, and all kind of weather that varies by region. God made continents and oceans and sea, a north and south pole that God put in the deep freeze. God carved rivers and brooks and mountains and caves. He made beaches with sand and huge crashing waves. God made tropics and plateaus, glaciers and meadows, marshes and tundras, and erupting volcanoes. God made some places high with peaks up in the sky and places where snowflakes still fall in July. And in quite a few spots, God made it so hot, should you visit, just know you need to drink a lot. God made valleys so low and geysers that blow. And under the earth's surface, God put well springs that flow. And then with gardens and forests and other things green, God made earth come to life using soil and seed. God made cypress and pines, bushes and vines, all kinds of trees with leaves God designed. Planets full of flavor like basil and thyme, and trees that grow citrus like grapefruits and limes. God made flowering plants and plants that enchant. While most you can touch, God made some that you can't. Roses, be warned, are prickly with thorns. And there's an African melon that God covered with thorns. And poison ivy's backlash, it gives you a rash, so wherever you touch, you'll itch and then you'll have to scratch. But don't let that stop you. Run barefoot through the grass. Pick a flower or two or a bouquet, perhaps. Find you a tree that you can climb with a seat and some twine. And build your very own swing or a backyard zip line. And when you eat grapes or pour syrup on crepes or go into the forest you go to escape, give thanks to God for all that God made, for the fruit and the syrup and the trees and the shade. Because when God made the world, God did it all that God could to create every detail for our joy and for our good. Now what happened is a mystery at best, but God made a bird and a bird made a nest. So God filled the sky, perhaps over time, with birds and more birds, and most learned how to fly. God made bluebirds and blackbirds and big birds and small birds. and quite a few birds quite absurd. And the loudest birds you've ever heard. Crows crowed and doves cooed, chickens clucked and owls hooed, robins chirped and pheasants whirled, and the world got noisy when God made birds. And the oceans God filled with sharks and fish and krill, and creatures God made with fins and with gills, swordfish and trout, fish sleet and fish stout, and whales that God made to breathe through a spout. God made sea rays and eels, fish red, yellow, or teal, and some fish so odd they hardly look real. Like fish that has fangs, or a monster-like face, or a fish that flies and makes its body inflate. And wherever there's a river, an ocean, or sea that touches dry land, there's likely to be all sorts of creatures living their lives on land and in water, and that's how they survive. Like otters and frogs and turtles on logs, and crocodiles, gathered in swampy bogs. And then God made cows and horses and goats. He made giblets with inflatable throats. God placed lions to roar and tigers to pounce. And kangaroos God thought, hey, let's just make you bounce. God made bears to growl and moles to plow. And under full moons, coyotes to howl. Donkeys that bray and giraffes bleated. Jaguars prayed and rhinos they stampeded. Bunnies hopped and beavers chopped. And in muddy pools, hippos plopped. Yes, all living creatures, from whales to snails, from all those covered with feathers to those who are covered with scales. Each God designed with a home in mind to develop and evolve if needed over time. Because when God made the world, every creature on earth became part of life's circle, having value and worth. And God made people like you and me. People with souls, people with stories, a global family tree. God made us all flesh and bone, covered in skin. God made all of our bodies to have hearts that are beating within. God gave us bellies and legs, fingers and toes. He fashioned our faces with eyes, mouth, and a nose. God made our bodies uniquely equipped for walking and talking, to eat and to skip. God wired our brains to feel love and feel pain, to process and learn, to read and to retain. But despite all we share, we are also unique. God made us all human with just a few tweaks. Each of our faces, bodies, and traits, our skin tones, our features, God did create. God made some people shy and some people loud, and some people who thrive in the midst of a crowd. Some make music and some like math, and some are prone to blaze their own path. But always remember, because this much is true, God had a purpose for making you, Evangeline, you. So use every gift, every talent or stick. Make the world better using your God-given trick. Bringing smiles to faces, show love and good gracious to those who need hope in all kinds of different places. Discover a star, a planet or moon, or help keep a forest from dying too soon. Save a whale, hug a tree, protect every bee. Recycle, repurpose, and reject apathy. 'Cause all creation whispers God's story. The ocean, the mountain, and the blue morning glory. The raindrops, the sunshine, and the grapes on the grapevine. With nature, God gives us a glimpse of divine. And just like the star might showcase God's light, or a waterfall gives us a sign of God's might, the same can be said for me and of you. How we live, how we love, tells God's story too. Because when God made the world, and the world started spinning, the story God wrote was just a beginning. The end. God made the world and God made you very special. I love you, Evangeline. Bye.